feedback. It just went crazy. I need to stop that otter too. Um, so in part two, and this is training of the evangelists at Bethsaida. And we're in section 5, the purpose of affliction. That's 148, section 5, paragraph 1, or 1661 in the original book, paragraph 3. All right, so let's get started here. And I'm going to let Diane get us started in case I need to do any cleanup here, in case it goes crazy again tonight.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead, dear.
All right. 5. The purpose of affliction. At another of these private interviews in the garden, Nathanael asked Jesus, Master, though I am beginning to understand why you refuse to practice healing indiscriminately, I am still at a loss to understand why the loving Father in heaven permits so many of his children on earth to suffer so many afflictions. The Master answered Nathanael, saying, and I wonder the same thing.
Okay, so here it goes. And this is his response. Nathanael, you and many others are thus perplexed because you do not comprehend how the natural order of this world has been so many times upset by the sinful adventures of certain rebellious traitors to the Father's will. And we've talked about that over and over, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
And I have come to make a beginning of setting these things in order. But many ages will be required to restore this part of the universe to former past and thus release the children of men from the extra burdens of sin and rebellion. The presence of evil alone is sufficient test for the ascension of man. Sin is not essential to survival. Did y'all catch that? And I
Mm-hmm.
did some shorts, which all of y'all were in here and there today about sin, iniquity, and how
Evil.
evil. That's right. Thanks, Rodney. Evil, sin, and iniquity. Okay, and how sin is not necessary in this lifetime. As long as we stay within the Father's will, we will not have to deal with sin. And why is that? Because if you're within the will of the Father, then sin stays non-existent in your life because you're doing the will of God. Okay. And that's as simple as I can put it. But, it says right here, the presence of evil alone is a sufficient test. So just the fact that our surroundings and what goes on in this world, so much of it is evil, is a sufficient test for our learning, for our ascension plan. And that's why Jesus is saying here, sin is not an essential part of survival. So we don't have to deal with sin at all if we choose not to and stay within the Father's will.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Wow, that got small fast, didn't it? So Pam, put on your glasses and try to
I've
read
got him.
this.
But my son, you should know that the Father does not purposely afflict his children. Man brings down upon himself unnecessary affliction as a result of his persistent refusal to walk in the better ways of the divine will. Affliction is potential in evil, but much of it has been produced by sin and iniquity. Many unusual events have transpired on this world, and it is not strange that all thinking men should be perplexed by the scenes of suffering and affliction which they witness. But of one thing you may be sure, the Father does not send affliction as an arbitrary punishment for wrongdoing. The imperfections of handicaps of evil are inherent. The penalties of sin are inevitable, and the destroying consequences of iniquity are inexorable. Man should not blame God for those afflictions, which are the natural result of the life which he chooses to live. Neither should man complain of those experiences which are a part of life as it is held hmm, as it is lived on this world. It is the Father's will that mortal man should work persistently and consistently toward the betterment of his estate on earth. Intelligent application would enable man to overcome much of his earthly m- misery, right?
Misery, earthly misery. So most of the things that makes us miserable, we bring upon ourselves. That's basically what he's saying here. So sin, when you sin or are iniquitous, the results of those sins themselves will come back and bite you. You know, it's kind of like karma. There's no way around it. If you sin, whatever that sin is going to come back and affect you in one way or another. And the only way to avoid that is not sin in the first place and not be iniquitous in the first place. So, because Jesus is standing here, that the afflictions that we normally have in this life are a result of the way in which we choose to live. And if we choose to live in a sinful manner, we're going to pay for those sins in the world we live in right now. Okay. And it's interesting that Jesus says something here, which is very few things does he make a comment like that. It says, man should work persistently and consistently towards the betterment of his estate on earth. Do you see that? So it's okay to work for a living. It's okay to work to have nice things, but you have to do it consistently and you have to plan and go at life wisely to receive those things which he's talking about. In other words, Jesus is not saying what all these mega churches are trying to teach people, that if they give to the church, they're going to get blessed and get rich. That's not going to happen. Okay, so I want to make sure that's clear. That's not what he's saying here. He's basically saying that if you work persistently and consistently towards those things that make your estate better, then you're gonna reap the rewards of that work, just like he did in life, right? When he worked as a
Mm-hmm.
boat builder, he made more money, and so he was able to take care of his mother longer.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, Rodney, would you take the next one?
Okay. Nathaniel, it is our mission to help men solve their spiritual problems, and in this way to quicken their minds so that they may be the better prepared and inspired to go about solving their manifold material problems. I know of your confusion as you have read the scriptures. All too often, there has prevailed a tendency to ascribe to God the responsibility for everything which ignorant man fails to understand. The Father is not personally responsible for all you may fail to comprehend. Do not doubt the love of the Father just because some just and wise law of his ordaining chances to afflict you because you have innocently or deliberately transgressed such a divine ordinance.
So the laws of the universe are set up just the way they are, right? And if you um, transgress those laws will come back and bite you, won't they?
Mm-hmm.
So it's all in how you look at things. And this is what he was talking about. The spiritual aspect of this is being ready to take responsibility of everything you do and say and how what you do and say affects you. Because if you do something negative, it's going to affect you in a negative way. You do something positive, it's going to affect you in a positive way. Okay. All right.
Gary must be here.
Yeah, here's a long one and it's a little type. So, Gary, are you out there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Filth his doggy.
You got here just in time.
I'm thinking I've got, my battery should have been dead longer.
Yeah.
Easy.
All right, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll take it. Okay. My dog's driving me nuts.
Go,
But,
go.
but Nathaniel, there is much in the scriptures which would have instructed you if you had only read with discernment. Do you not remember that it is written, My son, despise not the chastening of the Lord, neither be weary of his correction. For whom the Lord loves, he corrects. And even as the Father corrects the Son, in whom he takes delight, the Lord does not affect willingly. Before I was affected, I went astray, but now I keep the law. Affection,
Affliction.
uh-huh,
Affliction.
affliction, excuse me. Affliction was good for me that I might thereby learn the divine statutes. I know your sorrow. The eternal God is your refuge, which uh, underneath are the everlasting arms. The Lord also is a refuge for the oppressed, a heaven of rest in times of trouble. The Lord will strengthen him upon the bed of affliction. The Lord will not forget the sick. As a father shows compassion for his children, so is the Father compassionate for those who fear him. He knows your body. He remembers that you are dust. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. He is the hope of the poor, the strength of the needy in his distress, a refuge from the storm, and a shadow from the devastating heat. He gives power to the faint, and to them who have no might he increased strength. A bruised reed shall he not break, and the smoking flax he will not quench. Uh, when you pass through the waters of affliction, I will be with you. And when the rivers of adversity overflow you, I will not forsake you. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim the liberty of the captives, and to conform,
Comfort.
Comfort.
or, thank you, comfort all who mourn. There is correction in suffering. Affliction does not spring forth from the dust.
There's about 20 quotes from the Old Testament in that one paragraph, right?
Yep.
So it's what Jesus was doing. He was taking all these things that these Jewish people should have learned from the quotes and trying to make them an examples of how God will not stop things from happening to you, but he will go with you through them and give you strength, right? He's not just going to correct them willy-nilly just because you think you're special, basically. Okay. All right. Any way you look at it. Okay, here we go. 6, the misunderstanding of suffering. Discourse on Job. It was the same evening at Bethsaida that John also asked Jesus why so many apparently innocent people suffered from so many diseases and experienced so many afflictions. In answering John's questions, among other things, the master said,
My son, you do not comprehend the meaning of adversity or the mission of suffering. Have you not read the masterpiece of Semitic literature, the scripture story of the afflictions of Job? Do you not recall how this wonderful parable begins with the recital of the material prosperity of the Lord's servants? You will well remember that Job was blessed with children, wealth, dignity, possessions, health, and everything else which men value in this temporal life. According to the time-honored teachings of the children of Abraham, such material prosperity was all sufficient evidence of divine favor. But such material possessions and such temporal prosperity do not indicate God's favor. My Father in heaven loves the poor just as much as the rich. He is not respecter of persons.
So what he's saying here, the material possessions they're talking about here, and this parable, he calls it, right, of Job, because it wasn't true. That's basically it's a story. It's meant to be a story. But the point is here that being materially blessed does not indicate favorship of God. God is no respecter of persons, so he treats everybody equally. And I don't care how much you give to these mega churches and how much they say, if you send me $1,000, you'll be blessed. It's false. It's not true. You're basically trying to buy off God, and you're insulting God in doing so. Okay, and that's hard to hear, but it's the truth. You cannot buy the favor of God. The only thing you can do to get the favor of God is to love and worship God and do his will. That's the only thing you can do to get favor of God, and then he will not bless you materially. It doesn't work that way. I don't care what these preachers tell you. So I think they're leading people down a hole to fall into. They are going to eventually be disappointed. All right, Pam, would you take the next one?
Although transgression of divine law is sooner or later followed by the harvest of punishment, while men certainly eventually do reap what they sow, still you should know that human suffering is not always a punishment for antecedent sin. But both Job and his friends failed to find the true answer of their perplexities. And with the light you now enjoy, you would hardly assign to either Satan or God the parts they play in this unique parable. While Job did not, through suffering, find the resolution of his intellectual troubles or the solution of his philosophical difficulties, he did achieve great victories, even in the very face of the breakdown of his theological defenses. He ascended to those spiritual heights where he could sincerely say, I abhor myself.
Abhor myself. Abhor
Abhor.
Yeah.
myself.
Then was the then was there granted him the salvation of a vision of God. So even through misunderstanding suffering, Job ascended to the superhuman plane of moral understanding and spiritual insight. When the suffering servant obtains a vision of God, there follows a soul peace which passes all human understanding.
So even though he approached it totally wrong and in the wrong direction, he was still blessed with the understanding, the human understanding of his relationship with God, basically,
Became peaceful.
and became peaceful. That's right. Rodney.
The first of Job's friends, Eliphaz,
Yeah.
exhorted the sufferer to exhibit in his afflictions the same fortitude he had prescribed for others during the days of his prosperity. Said this false comforter, trust in your religion, Job. Remember that it is the wicked and not the righteous who suffer. You must deserve this punishment, else you would not be afflicted. You well know that no man can be righteous in God's sight. You know that the wicked never really prosper. Anyway, man seems predestined to trouble, and perhaps the Lord is only chastising you for your own good. No wonder poor Job failed to get much comfort from such an interpretation of the problem of human suffering.
Now, did he give a single thing in this statement that was true?
Yes.
And what is that, Gary?
And I just got it, but it's towards the end anyway. Man's persistent is trouble. Perhaps the Lord is chastising you for your own good. And what
Absolutely
I'm
wrong.
let me finish.
Okay. Yeah.
I believe that God puts troubles before you so you can learn from them.
No, your guardian angels do that, but God does not.
No, they're from God.
No, they're not
I'm
from
half
God.
right.
They're from the
Sponsored by.
Hmm?
they're sponsored by God, but they're not from God. God never chastises his own children for a result. Okay, because he's a father of love. And that's where this kind of thing comes from, is a misunderstanding of your relationship with God the Father. If you relate God to everything that is good, merciful, and for his children, now that's one thing. But when you say that God chastises you for something you've done, it's totally wrong. He does not punish you that way. He allows your actions to punish you. Does that make sense? I want you to make sure you get this difference.
So we
God
should
doesn't,
stay in bed.
huh?
We should stay in bed.
Sometimes I think that's true. Uh, but you see the difference here? People try to prescribe to God things that are not has nothing to do with God. Okay. God, number one, is not Santa Claus. He doesn't give you gifts for no reason. And God is not your answer for every little trouble that you come up upon, because it's your responsibility to deal with those problems as you think would be the will of God. Does that make sense? All right. And that's a big difference. Okay. Now let's see what the counsel of the second friend was here. Who's up next?
Gary.
Okay,
Gary?
I was wondering. But the counsel of his second friend, Bildad,
Bildad. Yeah, Bildad.
was even more depressing. That we laid it on this
Isn't
guy.
it nice to have friends?
Yeah. Notwithstanding its soundness from the standpoint of the then accepted theology, said Bildad, God cannot be unjust. Your children must have been sinners since they perished. You must be in error, else you would not be so afflicted. And if you are really righteous, God will certainly deliver you from your afflictions. You should learn from the history of God's dealings with man that the Almighty destroys only the wicked.
Now, is anything in this paragraph right?
No.
I was
No.
wrong the last time, so I'm shutting up.
That's what you have me for, Gary, to point your out. If I
I
didn't
don't think,
love you, I wouldn't correct you, right?
I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's any, I didn't see anything there that,
Well, let's look at a couple things here. Said your children must have been sinners. We know that God does not punish people for things their children did or their mother and father did do. And it doesn't work that way. You don't
Or that
pay,
Adam and Eve did.
or that Adam and Eve did, or anybody before them did, right? It puts us in a situation where we have to deal with evil constantly, but it's not their fault, right? Just because they got tied up in a default and rebellion and all this stuff, it's not their fault what happens to you, okay? Because you still have the will to make your own decisions, okay? And then the next thing I want to point out You learn from the history of God dealing with man that the Almighty destroys only the wicked. I
Yeah.
don't think so,
I
right?
don't think so.
Yep, that's just the way it is. When things happen, it happens to all of us, the good and the wicked. All right. Next, and then you remember how Job replied to his friend saying, "I well know that God does not hear my cry for help." What? How can God be just and at the same time so utterly disregard my innocence? I am learning that I can get no satisfaction from appealing to the Almighty. Cannot you discern that God tolerates the persecution of the good by the wicked? And since man is so weak, what chance has he for considerations at the hands of an omnipotent God? God has made me as I am, and when he thus turns upon me, I am defenseless. Yeah, of course you would be. And why did God ever create me just to suffer in this miserable fashion? Boy, that's pretty negative, isn't it? So according to him, God doesn't do anything right, right? All right, let's go on, Diane.
And who can challenge the attitude of Job in view of the counsel of his friends and the erroneous ideas of God which occupy his own mind? Do you not see that Job longed for a human God, that he hungered to commune with a divine man's mortal estate, and understands that the just must often suffer in innocence as a part of this first life of the long paradise ascent. Wherefore has the Son of Man come forth from the Father to live such a life in the flesh that he will be able to comfort and succor all those who must henceforth be called upon to endure the afflictions of Job.
Okay, do y'all see how Jesus put in the bestowal missions right in the middle of this?
Yeah.
Right? You know, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? So, and what he's saying here, Job's attitude is pretty right because what he had been taught, right? He hadn't been taught about a merciful God. He'd been taught about a vengeful God that takes out his vengeance on people. You know, that's what happened in the flood, and that all this destroying of people all came from God, which none of this was true, right? So you can see how he got that idea, but the Son of Man, Jesus, came to live a life in the flesh just so that we can get through this and comfort each other and still be in alignment with God the Father, right? Okay, I'm going to stop saying right. Every time I say right, y'all are going to have to find me or something. Right, right. All right. You know, it's kind of funny, y'all. I was working on my paper yesterday. And to write these chapters for this new book of angels, I have to go through my old meetings and I have to transpose everything I've said in the meetings into something logical that makes sense, which is hard in itself. But in doing this, I take the transcript. I wanted to clue y'all in on this. The transcript of the meeting and have it all typed out and everything. And in doing that, I have to get rid of all the and all the rights. I had 69 huhs in this paper I worked on yesterday and 59 rights.
Wow. Right?
So that's my next goal, is to get rid of this habit of saying this.
I guess tell your AI to do that.
Huh?
Tell your AI.
I can't do that because if I tell the AI to do it, it has a habit. I tried that once and it rewrote the text to the point where it was unrecognizable as what I said.
Oh,
So I have to manually go through it and do it. So it's not a fun thing. Not a fun thing to criticize yourself all day long. It took me 3 hours to do it. Anyway, okay.
I think I'm next.
You're at next. Okay, take it, Pam.
Job's third friend, Zophar, then spoke still less comforting words when he said, "You are foolish to claim to be righteous, seeing that you are thus afflicted, but I admit that it is impossible to comprehend God's ways. Perhaps there is some hidden purpose in all your miseries." And when Job had listened to all three of his friends, he appealed directly to God for help, pleading the fact that man, born of woman, is few of days and full of trouble.
Boy, he had
Very
that
true.
one right, didn't he?
Is he blaming women?
No, he's saying life is short, and all the way through that short life is lots and lots of trouble, right? And if you think about it, it is. All right, Rodney.
Then began the second session with his friends. Eliphaz grew more stern, accusing and sarcastic. Bildad became indignant at Job's contempt for his friends. Zophar reiterated his melancholy advice. Job by this time had become disgusted with his friends and appealed again to God. And now he appealed to a just God against the God of injustice embodied in the philosophy of his friends and enshrined even in his own religious attitude. Next, Job took refuge in the consolation of a future life in which the iniquities of moral existence may be more justly rectified. Failure to receive help from man drives Job to God. Then ensues the great struggle in his heart between faith and doubt. Finally, the human sufferer begins to see the light of life. His tortured soul ascends to new heights of hope and courage. He may suffer on and even die, but his enlightened soul now utters that cry of triumph. My vindicator lives.
Who's his vindicator? God the Father, right? All right, so he feels vindication. All right, Gary.
You did it to me again. Okay. Job was altogether right when he challenged the doctrine that God afflicts children in order to punish their parent. Job was ever ready to admit that God is righteous, but he longed for some soul satisfying revelation of the personal character of the eternal. And this is our mission on earth. No more shall suffering mortals be denied the comfort of knowing the love of God and understanding the mercy of the Father in heaven, while the speech of God spoken from the whirlwinds was a majestic concept for the day of its utterness. You have already learned that the Father does not thus reveal himself, but rather that he speaks within the human heart as a still small voice saying, "This is the way, walk therein." Do you not comprehend that God dwells within you, that he has become what you are, that he may make you what he is? Well, that's a confusing sentence.
Well, not
That is
really.
true.
It's true if you think about it. First, let's take this majestic utterance in the whirlwind. What are they talking about here?
It
Jimmy the
wasn't
Cricket.
Huh?
Moses.
Jimmy the Cricket.
Moses.
That's what I
When
thought.
God spoke to Moses in the burning bush, right? Jesus is saying that did not happen because if you know God, God does not communicate with man in that way. Okay? Just like some, it's so, I hate to even bring this up,
Wasn't that when they were when the Red Sea parted and
the Ten
they
Commandments.
they
Yep.
followed the
that was
Portland.
in a show. I was
Yeah.
Hollywood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's the way they believed it happened. Okay. And so what Jesus is saying, God doesn't speak to people in that manner. He speaks from within. He speaks through the thought adjuster, right? Saying this is the way. And if you comprehend God in that way, you'll know that God is not this stern being that wants to punish everybody for everything, wants to wipe out civilization. Okay. And when you hear that on TV and the internet and everywhere else, there's this right now, there's this epidemic, I would call it, of people putting videos on the internet about dying and speaking to Jesus. Have y'all noticed that?
Yes,
Okay.
I have.
Do you think Jesus has the time to take every one of these people that supposedly die and come back? How can you get them to the mansion worlds when it takes 3 periods, and we don't know if that's actual days or 18 days times 3 to get them to the mansion world and back, and yet they come back within a couple hours, right? So we have this epidemic of people saying they talk to Jesus and they have this message and that message and all these other things. And I'm talking about a real epidemic of this, because if you go out and search on YouTube, you're going to find hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these videos out there. Okay. So everybody's dying and going to heaven and coming back with a message from Jesus. Okay. How in the world would Jesus have the time to run the universe? That's what I
Well, I'm
want.
not sure that he's got that limitation.
He may not have,
You know,
But I,
but I think
I'm
he's
being
gonna
very honest with you. You seem to be. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit
go
here.
right ahead. That's why we're doing this.
You seem to be imposing man's limitation on God.
No, I'm doing just the opposite, and I'm imposing God's limitation on man. That's the opposite of what I'm doing.
I'm saying God is not limited. He could do that if he wanted to.
Yeah, but do you think that happens over and over and over and over again, or do you think it might be the cells in the human brain firing while they're in a state of in between?
I
I
don't
don't.
know, but
I. I
John on
don't.
Patmos, he wasn't his soul taken
No,
to
that's why they call it a vision.
vision?
He
Yeah.
never actually left. He had a
Okay.
vision of it.
Who was that?
Yeah, that's true.
John the Revelator, John Zebedee, the book of Revelation.
Okay.
Okay.
Does anybody understand that?
Yes, I
Yeah.
do.
Okay, someday you're going
Gorgeous.
to have to tell me.
Well, someday I kept threatening to teach the whole book of Revelation sometime and show what actually happened in each thing, because I did a lot of study about that after I started reading the Urantia book, and all of the stuff in the book of Revelation is related in the Urantia book, but it's in a lot of different places. Okay.
Mhm.
So,
Um,
but it's also been changed so much since the original one that's hard to make sense of some of it. So go ahead, Rodney.
Jesus, he uh, he lived his life and taught us the character of the Father, that he's a loving Father. I mean, up until Jesus, man thought that God was wrathful and
Yes,
stern and jealous,
yes,
and um, and what I can't understand is most modern day preachers in the Christian religion, they still preach about God being a jealous God and a
yes,
wrathful, angry God.
yeah,
When even in the New Testament, it shows Jesus taught us no, this is who the Father is.
yeah, yeah.
So I don't understand.
Well, there's just so many different things, and they're still trying to convince everyone that there was a great flood and all the animals went into this big boat and everything. And they state right in the Urantia book that this was a myth. There was actually a person, Noah, and who was descendant from Adam. There was a person, Noah, and he did build a boat, and he would put a bunch of animals and go in and out. But that few animals that he kept taking in and out because of the rivers overflowing became the story of the Great Flood. And what's really interesting is, yeah, there was a great flood before human beings were here on the planet. There was three of them. So there's evidence that the whole planet at one time was covered in water. It was actually covered in water
many
three
times.
times. Yeah, three times. So that part of the story is right, but it wasn't God destroying all the giants, and it wasn't, I hear this stuff on TV and I just laugh and say, where do they get this stuff from? It's
That
just,
explains it. Thank you.
what's that?
I was conflicted mentally with, knowing the story of Noah in the Urantia book
Right.
and having, scientists saying, this was flooded, all over the world was flooded. And I was trying to reconcile the two.
Yeah.
So
Well,
basically, it was flooded. I forgot about it being flooded three times and stuff. And
yeah. Before humans got here, actually, before the human race even started on the planet, it was flooded three times. And there's physical evidence of that all over the world. And that's probably why there's flood stories with every culture down through time, right? But we still have people out trying to find the boat out on Mount Ararat and that
Ark.
sort of thing. Yeah, the Ark. So, anyway, let's keep going. Did we cover this one?
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Except
Okay.
the last sentence,
Well, let me,
which to me it says it all.
yeah. Do you not comprehend that God dwells within you, that he has become what you are, that he may make you what he is? That's the thought adjuster again,
Mm-hmm.
right? All right. See, y'all are smart. Why am I wasting my time teaching y'all? Okay, who's up next?
I think you are.
Am I? Okay. When Jesus made his final statement, the Father in heaven does not willingly afflict the children of men. Man suffers first from the accidents of time. You catch that, y'all?
Yeah.
The
what's the
accidents,
accidents of time, though?
the accidents of time are all these disasters that happen, hurricanes, earthquakes,
Okay.
volcanoes, dying of a heart attack. These are accidents of time because we're human.
Like the accident that you and Diane were in.
That's right. A car pulls out in front of us. No matter how I tried to stop, bam, I hit that truck head on.
It's an
Could
accident.
not, yeah, it's an accident of time. Could not be stopped. And any one of us can go out tomorrow and have the same thing happen. If you walk out in front of a transfer truck, you're going to get squished.
A tree could fall on you.
Tree could fall on you. That's right. Or in your house. Okay. And the imperfections of the evil and immature get this physical existence. It's part of our physical existence as humans, right? Next, he suffers from the inexorable consequences of sin. Now, these are the things that happen because of what we did sinful. The transgression of the laws of light and life, the laws God set up. And finally, man reaps the harvest from his own iniquitous persistence in rebellion against the righteous rule of heaven on earth because you follow Lucifer in the rebellion. But man's miseries are not a personal visitation of divine judgment. God does not do that. Man can and will do much to lessen his temporal sufferings, but once and for all be delivered from the superstition that God afflicts man at the behest of the evil one. God does not do that. Study the book of Job just to discover how many wrong ideas of God even good men may honestly entertain. Then note how even the painfully afflicted Job the God of comfort and salvation in spite of the erroneous teachings. At last his faith pierced the clouds of suffering to discern the light of life pouring forth from the Father as healing mercy and everlasting righteousness. That kind of sums it all up, doesn't it? Any way you look at it. Only Jesus could do that. All right, Diane.
John pondered these sayings in his heart for many days. His entire afterlife was markedly changed as a result of this conversation with the Master in the garden, and he did much in latter times to cause the other apostles to change their viewpoints regarding the source, nature, and purpose of commonplace human afflictions. But John never spoke of this conference until after the Master had departed.
Now, who did not get the benefit of this?
Um, the traitor,
The traitor.
The
Judas.
traitor. He did not get the benefit of this. And who
Judas.
else? Paul
Judas,
the apostle.
huh?
Paul
That's
the
right.
apostle. He
He's
was
not
not.
an apostle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he wasn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about,
He
right?
was not an apostle. An apostle, in my definition, was taught directly by God while he was on earth.
Well, during that period of time, anyway. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. The man with the withered hand. I wonder whether we'll get through this or not tonight.
Yeah.
I don't think we will. Okay, let's give it a shot. The man with the withered hand. Hang on, y'all. Let me count um, paragraphs here real quick.
You think maybe we should stop here and discuss what we've read?
We could and bring this
Don't.
come back here next time because this we covered a lot of stuff.
I don't know how long this thing is.
This is the man. This is 53, and we have 66. So I would really like to divide this up again and cover the rest of this next time. So, what are some of the things during this teaching? Because this is a very important teaching about Job, right? What are some of the things y'all think we need to bring out in this?
That God does not punish us
He
God,
doesn't
physically on
cause
earth.
affliction.
He doesn't punish us, period. I don't think. He loves
no,
us.
I don't think he does. Do you believe that God allows our own actions to punish ourselves?
Yes.
Well,
I do
yeah.
too. I
It's
I
think
way it's
I've
choices.
it's choices we make, and then we pay for those choices. If we make the correct choices, then our life seems to go along hunky dory, doesn't it? But if we make the wrong choices, and then this is in everything, then we pay for those choices for long, long periods of time. And I want to give you an example of that. Let's say you married the wrong woman or man in life. Do you
Diane, close your ears.
Yeah.
do you think you pay for those choices for the rest of your life until you die? Pretty much, don't you? Because you
Well,
try to get along with that person, and sometimes that person, number one, is ungodly, okay? And sometimes that person is totally opposite of your own
No.
personality. So you make concessions for that other person constantly, don't you? So it's hard in those situations to live as a godly person because you're dealing against someone that are making ungodly choices. Does that make sense? Right?
you can't have a house divide against itself.
No, you can't have a house divided against itself. And that's why I waited till I was 59 to get married, too, because I wanted somebody that was in sync with me mentally and spiritually, you know, because it's such an important thing. And sometimes you pay for even those sort of decisions to wait because I could have gotten married a dozen times earlier in life and did not, right? And that's what they're talking about here. It's all about your choices. The other thing is this. when we get the idea that God the Father punishes us for every little decision we make that is wrong, what do we become? We become shy and timid, right? Because we think fearful. We think every choice we're going to make is wrong over and over and over again. And that's not the way God intended us to live.
Well, this first life on earth is like on the job training. We learn from our choices.
We do.
Yeah.
And we're going to make mistakes, right?
Of course.
Yeah. I mean,
That's what
nobody's
it's
perfect.
about.
Yeah, that's what it's about. If you don't make mistakes, you hadn't learned anything, have
That's
you?
right.
And the guardian angels, what's their job? Their job to put those things in front of you so you have the possibility of making those mistakes. Okay?
Making a choice.
Making a choice. And then you learn from those choices, which is hard to understand because we have always thought that, the guardian angels are there to protect us from harm and that sort of thing. Okay? And that's not their job at all.
Yeah.
They're concerned with our spiritual life, not our physical life.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I think sometimes at times, I think we've been saved.
Well, sometimes I think that too, Gary. I mean, how can you not, when something horrible, you just miss having something horrible happen to you, you sit back and say, well, that must have been my guardian angel. I don't know why that didn't happen, right?
Been many times in my life.
Yeah, mine too.
I
I've lived such a dangerous life, scuba diving and just
Oh,
everything, and came so close to death so many times that it's not even funny. And
God.
yet here I am still here. I guess God had a purpose for me to stick around for a little bit longer.
We had books to write.
I had books to write,
Mm-hmm.
If I
you
make it through this last one, it'll be a miracle in
you know
itself.
it is written that in I believe the Urantia book that we are here for a set period of time. As a matter of fact, I remember us discussing it.
Yeah.
That's when we're going to die. When God says your time's up, adios, world.
Yeah.
And so maybe the guardian angels is trying to protect that. Or maybe when we have a catastrophe that takes our life, that was the end of the time.
That was the plan. That was the plan to start out with. They've always said that everyone has a time for
Mhm.
death, and I don't think there's anything you can do to change that. Really, it's up to you.
I
So
figured out a possibility. If God wants us to learn in this world, if we want to extend our life, we can be a slow learner.
we can be a
That's
slow
right.
learner to extend our life. Oh, I don't know about that. Maybe that's my problem. That's why I'm writing all these books now, is I was a slow learner and I had to wait till I was 71 to finish. Maybe that's it. Well, listen, let's say our prayer of acceptance here before we quit tonight. Um,
Who read on Thursday?
huh?
Who read on
Nobody read
Thursday?
on Thursday. I had the
Yeah,
technical issue with the
right.
feedback loop.
Because I had an appointment, so I didn't even check in.
Yeah.
Whose
So,
turn is it, Pam?
It's my turn.
Okay.
okay, go for
Prayer of acceptance. I believe that God is my paradise Father, and that only by faith am I saved. No sacrifice is necessary. By this same faith, I became a child of God, and know that all men and women are my brothers and sisters. We know the Son of God, the sovereign of our universe of Nebadon, as Christ Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. By allowing the will of God to become my will, I will someday stand in the presence of the Paradise Father. In the name of Christ Michael, Jesus of Nazareth, Amen.
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 And let me say something before we quit tonight. I apologize to all y'all out there that watch our videos that the transcription is in the video. I didn't realize till I started working on this book on angels how many misspellings are in the transcriptions.
Transcriptions.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
there's a transcription that YouTube automatically creates of everything that's said during the video. And it cannot spell anything. I mean, it really cannot. There's so many misspellings in these transcriptions. And as I started going back through the videos for the angels, I realized how many misspellings and things is in the transcriptions, and I don't know that I'll ever get back and correct them all, but I have been correcting the ones, I get to, because there's just tons and tons, because the transcribe routine does not understand what we're teaching because it's not standard stuff. Like it misspelled one of them today, Nebadon, about 20 times today. And even the seraphim, it cannot distinguish between a seraphim and a sanobam. It can't distinguish between a supernaphim and a seraphim. It interchanges them. So when I go back through these things, I've been trying to correct transcripts at the same time. But there are lots of videos out there that's got transcriptions on them that are just awful. So, and you don't know that until you go back and read every single thing.
Wow.
So, so it just takes that much longer. Typical transcription takes me 3 hours because I have to listen to the video, compare to it's transcribed, and then make the corrections to put it back in there. So it's a job to do that. Huh, kitty. Yeah.
Thank you, Papa.
Yeah. Okay, y'all. I enjoyed it. We'll plan on meeting on Thursday.
Thank you.
Let me get y'all's opinion about something since we've got a couple minutes here. How long do y'all want to take over the holidays off?
I'm not sure I want to
When is
take off.
Christmas?
Let me see what the calendar says.
Yeah, we usually take off.
Maybe that week.
We usually take off 2 weeks, the week of Christmas and the week of New Year's, because everybody's got so many things going on. But I wanted to run that by y'all and see what y'all
Well,
want to do.
the week of the 22nd through the 28th.
Yeah, let me look here real quick.
Well, why can't we meet on the 23rd, Tuesday?
It's
Well,
Christmas Eve.
No, that's
No.
Christmas Eve's the 24th.
It's the
Oh, it is
24th, but
24th.
Yeah, just that week would be fine.
Okay.
Only problem is the first of the year falls on a Thursday.
Yeah, it does.
yeah.
So maybe we should be Tuesday, Thursday. Maybe it should be on start January 5th.
6th, you mean? That would be Tuesday.
6th, yes.
Oh, that's
Yes.
Diane's birthday.
And
We
then
can't do-
so the last Thursday would be the 18th.
Yeah, that would
Yes.
be true, but
That
I
would
don't
give
want to.
you 2 weeks of a break.
Let's make it the 8th because January 6th is Diane's birthday and we'll be going out that night.
Oh, good.
Okay.
So
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See, Diane, you do have influence here. You see that?
I'm sorry. What did you say? Honey?
he says you do have
January.
influence.
Oh, yes, I do have a song.
Okay, so we'll plan on starting back up on the 8th and we'll go through the 23rd then, if that's okay with y'all.
You're saying the 8th is Diane's
January.
birthday?
No, the
Yeah.
6th is Diane's birthday.
Oh, the 6th.
So we'll start on the 8th, but we will have a meeting on the 23rd or no?
Yes.
Yes.
If
Okay, the
that's
23rd.
okay with everybody, because do
Yeah.
y'all have plans on going out of town for Christmas or anything?
I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
All right, let's be safe. We'll meet on the 18th,
Mhm.
and that'll be our last meeting to the 8th. Okay.
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 That way we're
Okay.
off for Christmas, we're off for New Year's.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool.
Sound
And
good?
you can so get straight on the 8th.
That's right. We'll get straight on the 8th. Okay.
All right.
And y'all
Thank you.
behave yourself during that period of time so I don't have to correct you.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right. I love you
Love
guys.
you guys.
I'll see you
Thank you.
Thursday. All right.
Okay.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thanks, everybody
Night.
from home, for watching and joining us.
Love
Bye-bye.
you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.